Hello, welcome to Movie Reviews for Life. And this is a video requested by YouTube user Jude5478. Okay, and what I'm going to review today is I don't have it on VHS or DVD. Okay, but I have seen the movie enough to basically memorize what the film's about. You know, it's Twilight Zone, the movie, released in 1983. Alright, and what's interesting about this is that it is an anthology film, so it's got multiple directors. Alright, and it is based off of the TV series of the same name, with Rod Sterling as the narrator. This film, basically, okay, I'm going to review each segment in order. Alright, the first segment basically is the prologue, which actually has Albert Brooks as the driver and Dan Aykroyd as the passenger, and it was directed by John Landis. This is, there's nothing real special about this. It basically just helps set the tone. It's nothing real, real iffy to go about. It's basically the only part of the film, this and the epilogue, that isn't based on an episode of the Twilight Zone. When the scene is done with and we move on to our first segment, it's the narration is being done by Burgess Meredith, who's most famous for being in one of the most famous Twilight Zone episodes. I forget the name of the episode, but it's where he basically becomes the last man on Earth, and he wants nothing but time to read, and he winds up breaking his glasses, and now he can't read, so he's basically stranded on Earth by himself with nothing to do, no one to talk to, nothing, But that's all. That's a totally different episode. It's not on this film. So let me get straight to the movie. First segment we got is directed by John Landis, okay, and it's loosely based on the episodes A Quality of Mercy and Death's Head Revisited, okay, and it's got Vic Marrow as the main character, Bill, who is basically, he's like a really bad version of Archie Bunker. He's a bigot to the fullest, doesn't like the fact that anybody other than white people are being around or nothing like that. And he winds up being trapped within kind of a Holocaust type world, where basically the Nazis return, and now they're trying to take over, America, in the way that they did Germany, in the 40s. The Jewish community, they're doing the same thing to America in this Twilight Zone segment. This is probably my least favorite thing, not because of the, racist or the, controversial matter in which the film was, a segment was made or anything. It's just another, once you get past this, then the movie becomes actually really good. Also, you also got the fact that, the behind the scenes of this segment is actually more famous than the segment itself. On July 23rd, 1982, Vic Marrow and two child actors actually died in a helicopter accident, which I'm guessing was being filmed for the film, for the segment after the last scene we see of him being pulled away in the concentration camp trains. There was supposed to be another segment, I believe, that was supposed to be filmed in which he was sent off, in a helicopter or whatever. And him and Minka Dinley, 7-year-old, were decapitated, and Renee Shin Ye Chen was crushed by the helicopter. This basically ended the friendship between Landis and Spielberg because, the studio was basically sued by the parents and everything, and even one of the assistant director for the segment actually took his name off. So when you look at the credits, you'll see assistant director Alan Smithy. I'm surprised this segment was even released because of the harshness. But the two child actors, were cut from the film. So, I'm guessing that's how they were able to get through it. The second segment it's a fun segment to watch. It's not the best, but it's a fun segment. It's directed by Steven Spielberg, and it's based off the episode "Kick the Can." And it's got Scotman Crothers as this old guy who comes into this retirement home or whatever, and basically brings out the youth and all the old people in the place because their families aren't coming to see them and they're depressed, and he basically helps them remember what it was like to be kids by transforming them into kids. It's an interesting tale. It's fun to watch or whatever. Nothing special about it. It's just a fun episode to watch. It's just, it makes me want to watch the original episode from the series. I actually never seen that episode. The third segment, is probably one of my favorite, other than the last segment, and this is directed by Joe Dante, who is most famous for directing the Gremlin films. And this is based off the episode "It's a Good Life," which I actually did see. It's got Kathleen, Quinlan as Helen, Foley, Jeremy Lichtas as Anthony, the young boy, Kevin McCarthy as Uncle Walt, Nancy Cartwright, most famous for playing the voice of Bart, as Ethel, and Dick Miller as Walter Paisley, which Dick Miller was also in the Gremlins films. Basically, this story is about a young boy who has the power to make anything happen, and he takes in a school teacher who defends him, when these punk guys are trying to beat up on him, and he wants her to stay with him forever, just like he's made this whole family, trapped them inside the house, that he lives in, and it's got a happy ending, whereas the Twilight Zone episode, from what I can remember, didn't have a happy ending. This definitely does have a happy ending, but it's a very well filmed segment. Joe Dante did a pretty good job with the lighting and stuff. And the funny thing is that The Simpsons, which Nancy Cartwright plays the voice of Bart Simpson, actually spoofed this segment, in which Bart is the young boy in the season 3 episode Treehouse of Horror 2, which is kind of funny, because it's kind of like an imitation type thing, The fourth segment, which is probably my favorite one, it is actually my favorite one, just like the episode is based off, is one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes. It's directed by George Miller, and it's based off of the William Shatner episode Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. And it's got John Lithgow as John Valentine, which is like this claustrophobic, afraid of heights type of guy, writer or whatever. And he ends up witnessing this monster or whatever, which actually is the Dan Aykroyd character from the Prologue and what will become the Epilogue, tearing up the plane. And he tries to warn everybody, but everybody thinks he's just crazy. Yeah, it's got some really cool images and stuff like that. It's real kind of like a psychological type of thing, because you don't know if he's crazy or not, and that's what's good about the episode. And that was what was good about the original, Twilight Zone episode. So it is a favorite of mine. This episode was also spoofed by The Simpsons in the Treehouse of Horror, in which Bart is actually the one on the bus who sees this little gremlin tearing up the school bus, so that's kind of a cool little thing too. The Epilogue is also directed by George Miller, and it basically just wraps up the last segment and connects it to the Prologue, with Dan Aykroyd coming back and doing what he did with Albert Brooks, saying, "Do you really want to see what's scary?" And then you hear the familiar Twilight Zone theme with Rod Sterling's narration now, which is kind of fun to hear because, brings back memories from the original series. But in terms of ratings, I would have to give the Prologue and the Epilogue, I would say is about a 3 out of 5, because it's a good way to set the tone and a good way to end the film. The first segment, I would have to give about 2 out of 5, because it's not really my favorite. It's kind of a bore, The second segment, I would say, is about another 3 out of 5, because it's a fun episode, but it is passable. The third segment, I would give a 4 out of 5 because of the ingenious camera work and just, it's all out craziness, and but it does have that happy ending, which is cool. It changes it a bit from the episode version. It's not a direct remake. Then you got the fourth segment, which I'm going to give a 5 out of 5 because just like the episode, it's just awesome. They changed it just enough to make it its own, but you can still have that essence of the William Shatner episode. And John Lithgow is just awesome in the role. So definitely, as an overall film, I would give it about a 3 out of 5, 3.5 out of 5. Because it does have its hits and it has its misses too. I don't have it on DVD. I think there is a special edition with a commentary, but I'm not sure. If there is, then I'll definitely get it. That's the only reason I haven't gotten it, because I haven't heard of a special edition. So definitely go see it. I hope you enjoyed this, and stay tuned for another review.